Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am happy to say that I am back. So that means I'll be uploading videos regularly to my channel. So between 1 to 2 videos a week. And as I previously told you, there's going to be tons of Hellcat videos from now on because I have quite a few parts that I need to get installed on this car. So that's exactly the car that we'll be working on today. So one question that I've been getting a lot is, where is the GT350 engine? So it's still not here. It's with RPG, but we are getting closer. So I've been getting some progress pictures, but it's still not here. Once again, I'll let you guys know once I have another update, once it's on the way or once it's here, but it's still with RPG. Now, another thing is that since we are working on a Mopar today, I mean, it's only right that I wear a Mopar shirt. And you know, there's this saying that some people go by, which is Mopar or no cars. Not me. I mean, I do like my Mopar, but I do like other cars. So that's why I go by this saying, Mopar and more cars. So this is a new shirt design that I have on my website, drivenfast.com. So if you're interested in getting this shirt as well as other shirts, other accessories and posters, you can find that on drivenfast.com. So I have the link to that in my description down below. Okay, so back to today's video. So today we'll be working on the Hellcat REDEYE, and today it's going to get new brakes. So we'll be replacing the OEM brakes with DBA brakes. So for those of you that remember or saw the previous video, you guys know that that's what I'm starting off first. Now the DBA brakes are the same brakes that the GTR has installed, so the OEM ones were replaced with DBA brakes. Now, for those of you wondering, why am I going to be installing new brakes on this car? Because I mean, clearly doesn't need it. These brakes are still good. And yes, you're right, but once again, my main goal for this car is for it to be a very fast straight line car. Now my first goal, like the first phase for this car, is for it to make 1,000 horsepower. Now that's just the first phase. After that, I do plan on increasing more power, but first we need to focus on that. So that's why, I mean, and another thing is that not only will I be using this car for quarter mile, I'll also be using it for half-mile racing. Now I've been to the half-mile. I still haven't taken it to the quarter mile, but I have been to the half-mile with it completely stock. Let me tell you, once you pass that half-mile mark, you have another half-mile to brake. That's your braking zone. And just with it stock, you are, at least for me, I already start feeling like, you know what, with more power and how heavy this car is, you're gonna need better brakes. So that's why I'll be replacing the brakes. I'll be upgrading the brakes just because we wanna be safe and sound. Now, of course, all that fun part that you guys want to see, all the engine mods, if you guys remember my previous video, they're all here. All of those parts are here in these boxes somewhere. So we will get to that. I will be installing those, but first, I want to make sure that we get the brakes out of the way, and then we'll start with the engine mods. So we want to first focus on safety and then on the fun part. All right, so now let's start off by removing the wheels, and then let's see everything that we need to remove in order to get this brake job done. So now that we remove the wheels, this is pretty simple. Now this is pretty much the same concept as with the GTR and the Camaro. So in order to remove the brake pads, we need to remove these 2 pins and then this center bolt here, as well as this bracket, and then we can take out the brake pads. There's also 2 bolts here in the back that's holding the caliper to the spindle, so we need to take those out too, and then we can remove the rotor. Now here at the rear, again, it's pretty much the same as the front. So we just need to remove these 2 pins, the center bracket, and then we can take out the brake pads. There's also 2 bolts here in the back holding the caliper to the spindle, so we need to take those out, and then we can pull out the rotor as well. Here we have the DBA brake pads and rotors. Now before we speak about the brake pads, I do want to go over the rotors. So these are the front rotors and these are the rear. You can see that they're visibly different. Now I'm not sure if you guys remember with the GTR, so like the GTR, the Hellcat is a 2-piece for the front. So that means that we need to remove the hat from the OEM rotors, and then we need to add it here to the DBA rotor. So it's the same process that I did with the GTR, but if not, I'll show you once we remove these OEM rotors. I mean, it's pretty simple. The only thing, it is time consuming. Now, unlike the GTR, the rear, you can see they're vastly different. So these aren't a 2-piece floating rotor. So it comes already here with this drum design, which is again, looks very similar to the OEM ones. So the good thing about this is that since it's not a two-piece, it doesn't involve a lot more work, just because, like I said, installing the hat, it's not hard. It's just time consuming. If you guys remember, it took me a very long time. So that's the good thing about this, is that all we need to do is remove these rear rotors and then install these and we're good to go. Now, a few differences between these DBA rotors and the front ones. Well, these are slotted. Now, you guys know that both the front and the rear for the Hellcat OEM are slotted, but let me show you what they mean by slotted. So we're here at the front. These are still the OEM rotors. Now, these are slotted, but we can count the slots. It's like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I can't see there under the caliper. So, I mean, enough said. That's what slotted means, OEM. Now, having a look at the DBA rotors, you can see that there's a lot more slots. It also has a lot more vanes. So this in turn is better for heat dissipation. Now here for the rear, again, it's the same thing. It's a lot more slotted and it also has a lot more vanes. So once again, better for heat dissipation. So now let's move on to the brake pads. Here we have the DBA brake pads. So once again, these were the same ones that were installed on the GTR. So they're right in the middle. They're not just the ones for street use, but they're not just the track ones. These are the XP650. So these can be used for both street and track use. And these will just give you better braking. So in turn, a better bite. So both of these paired together, the brake pads and the rotors, both of these, like I mentioned before, they'll be able to take better heat and just resist more fade and still perform as you would expect. I mean, granted, I did take the GTR to the track once. I upgraded the brake pads and rotors with the DBA ones, and again, better braking, just full confidence. Not saying that the Hellcat will be taken to the track, but it will have better braking and just give me a lot more confidence when I'm trying to stop the car that's going 180 plus miles per hour. Okay, so enough talking. It's time to get to the fun part and get to work. So I'll start off with the rear just because it's the easiest, and then I'll make my way to the front, and I'll see you guys once I'm done. So now we have the rear. This was very easy, very simple. Have the new rotor on, which was so easy. The new brake pads are in, and we have the front off, and this is the OEM rotor. So times like these, I am very happy that I have this vise. If you guys remember, I had been wanting a vise for a while before when I didn't have this toolbox, and even when I did the Nissan GTR brakes, I did not have this. So it was even more time consuming and even more of a pain because I didn't have the assistance of the vise like I do today to hold the rotor and just make this job a lot easier. So I'm very glad. So all I need to do is remove these bolts and then the hat will come off. So then we'll just add it here to the DBA rotor. So I'll use all of the hardware that comes with the OEM, so all of the bolts. The only thing that we will be replacing are the nuts. So these are the nuts that are provided by DBA, and I'll be using these. So once I have the hat on, which I'll probably do the same thing. I'll put this rotor here, and then that way I'll just tighten up all of the bolts with the nuts, torque them, and then we can go ahead and install it at the front. We are getting there. So I already have this bolt here on the DBA rotor. Now before I continue, I do want to show you what I did. So all of these bolts that I removed, I did clean them. So I soaked them in mineral spirits for a little bit, and then what I did is I attached the bolt to the drill just like here, and then I used the other hand, just use this pick just to clean the threads, and that way I was able to clean them. So you can see there's quite a bit of thread locker there. Now they're not perfect, but I did the best I could. So they should go in a lot easier, a lot smoother without any issues. And like I said, this is very simple to do. It's just going to be a bit time consuming. Well, it is time consuming. So very simple. All I need to do is put this bolt in through here. And then we're going to take this bracket. So I'm not sure if you can see, it has a lip. One side has a lip, one side doesn't. We want to make sure that we place this correctly, so the lip has to be towards the inside. So now we have the bracket, and then the clip is towards the inside. So all we need to do now is add a little bit of Loctite here on the threads, and then we'll go ahead and use these nuts that were provided by DBA. So I need to do that for all of this. So that's why it's going to take some time. Now I'm not sure what the torque specs are for these. So I mean, I couldn't find it anywhere online. So what I did is I did try with the torque wrench before I took all of these out from the OEM one. So I started all the way from 1 to 8 pounds, and at 8 pounds it did move the bolt just a little bit, so might be somewhere between 7 and 8, but I'm just going to stick to 8. So right now I'm just going to finish doing this, which will take some time, and then I'll put it back on the car, and I'll see you guys once everything's back on. Everything is back on the car and we are finished. So now the front and the rear is back on and we're done with this job. Now, personally, I really do like how these slotted rotors look. To me, this looks a lot better. But one thing that I did forget to tell you is that I did weigh the OEM rotors for both the front and the rear. And I also weighed the DBA front and rear rotors, and by that I mean the complete setup. And the DBA rotors are lighter, so each side in the front is 3.5 pounds lighter than the OEM rotors. So like I said, the entire setup, so then that means there's a total of 7 pounds in the front of weight savings. And here in the rear, these DBA ones are lighter, not as much as the front, but these are about less than a pound so per side. So combined weight here, combined weight savings here in the rear is, I'd probably say, like about 1.5 pounds. So I mean, that's always good. I mean, I think that's a lot. Done now with this Hellcat modifications, getting new brakes. I won't be doing the braking procedure just yet because this Hellcat is going to remain on the lift. Like I told you before, I have tons of other modifications I need to install on it, so that's exactly what's coming up next. Now this installation, it was easy, it was simple, it was time consuming, especially here at the front. I mean, you guys saw, it's not hard at all, but you need to be patient with it. Now the rear, that was super easy, super cake, but just be prepared if you're going to do this. You do need to take some time. So now the fun begins in the next video and the videos after that. I will start with the engine modifications. So this Hellcat is going to get some power. I know a lot of you have been waiting for that, so I'm excited and I can't wait for that, so stay tuned. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.